As an introduction to this video, I want to remind you, always follow sanitary guidelines while preparing food. Washing hands, avoiding cross-contamination from raw meats and fresh foods by using separate cutting boards, and always keep a clean and sanitized work area. Some of these recipes include cooking meat. It is best to use a food thermometer to check the internal temperature of meat for doneness. Remember to watch your food portions, and while shopping for food and ingredients, remember to read the food labels. That is especially helpful for diabetics watching their carbohydrates, proteins, fats, and sodium. All of the food I am preparing in this video is available in the Dining with Diabetes curriculum, and the recipe is included on the video. And finally, always remember to follow your healthcare provider's instructions concerning your specific dietary diabetic needs.
Welcome to Dining with Diabetes. My name is Don Zimmer with the Michigan State University Extension Office. Today we're going to be cooking almond crusted whitefish and broccoli salad with creamy dressing served with a rice pilaf. So here's our Lake Michigan whitefish that I've actually rinsed and patted dry already, and we need 4 portions on here. So I'm going to try to do my best to make the portions the same size. It helps them cook evenly and also controls our portions once again. And we need our oven at 400 degrees, which I've already set. We're going to spray the bottom of our pan. And those fish will go right in there. And of course, with the whitefish, it's going to be a healthier choice than, say, a red meat because it's going to be lower in fat and certainly lower in cholesterol. For this dish, we're going to need some almonds, some melted margarine. And the reason we like margarine is because it's plant-based, typically canola oil-based. It's not going to have the cholesterol that butter will have. And the solid margarine usually has some water added, so that's also going to reduce some of the fat or calories from butter. I'm just going to melt that quickly in the microwave. So while our margarine's melting, we're going to start mixing together. Calls for our almonds, margarine, lemon juice, and once again, our nice handy-dandy juicer. Calls for some lemon zest, and sometimes they'll call it rind, but with the lemon zest, you don't actually want to get any of the white. So a handy tool would be the zester, which is very easy to use, and you can pull that straight across. And we just want the yellow. We don't want to get the white, which actually is called the rind. And it only calls for a small bit. Let's see, we have a 1.5 teaspoon grated lemon zest. And so I think we can mix it all in here. So we got our almonds, 2.5 tablespoons sliced almonds. And they say you can crush those. If you just squeeze them in your hand to make them a little smaller, they want to worry if they make sure they're going to stick to the fish and spread out evenly. And once again, 2.5. I'm not going to crush them all. Our lemon zest. Sometimes those strips are a little bit long. After you zest it off there, a quick chop to make it a bit smaller. Worcestershire sauce. And an interesting thing about this, so this is actually anchovy and tamarind. You may not notice the anchovy adds the saltiness, tamarind adds the acid. Typically people use this with steak. Of course, today we're going to do it on our fish. 1/2 teaspoon. So it's not going to be too much. That's sort of going to substitute for our salt in this, which we'd like to reduce. A little paprika and some pepper. Paprika we get 1/2 teaspoon again. And our pepper, 1/8 teaspoon, that's worth a good pinch in there. 0 calories in pepper. A little spicy, but use what you like. So then again, it's just simply we're going to mix this up. The margarine wasn't completely melted, but that's okay. It'll help stick to the fish. And once you can see your mixture is evenly colored, you'll know your spices are mixed around in there nicely. And try to spread it around evenly on those fish. So once I went around once, I can go back and kind of even it up. So like I said, we're going to put that into our oven. We're at 400 degrees. And it suggests 12 to 15 minutes. So I'll check this after about 10 minutes to make sure it's not cooking too fast. And so we have our fish in the oven. So now let's get to work on our broccoli salad. And so for this, we want just the flowerets, which are they're actually the flowers on the top of the broccoli. We're going to cut them small enough for a nice bite size. I think it just says broccoli flowerets. And if you just sort of use your best judgment, how big a bite you want to take on each fork. We're looking for about 2 cups. And we're going to need a microwave-safe bowl, a bit of water. It calls for a 1/4 cup of water on top of those. And so, just a bit of water to wet it. Some plastic wrap over the top. And make sure you get plenty of holes in the top so it doesn't, that steam that's caught in there can escape. We want it to be hot enough to cook the broccoli, but we don't want to build up a big balloon of steam. And then once again, right into our microwave. We're going to give it 2 minutes. And so, broccoli, a little bit of sliced red pepper. Of course, with all these vegetables, I've already pre-rinsed them. And so, on these peppers, first I like to break it in half. I just pop the core out right on the inside. Peel out any seeds, stem. Sometimes there's some seeds that'll hang on if you just give it a quick clap. And we're looking for 1 cup of sliced red pepper. And so once again, nice easy cuts. Try to judge it how you'd like your salad to look when you're finished. Sometimes, if you get some of these longer pieces, they're going to be harder to eat in your salad. You can always turn it sideways and give it an extra chop. We're at a 1/4 cup chopped red onion. And so once again, that chop, just an irregular size, a little bit smaller. I bet that's a 1/4 cup. And now our carrot. And so I washed these carrots, of course, and I don't even bother to peel them. I'll take off the butts. We only need a small amount, looks like a 1/3 cup shredded carrot. And with the skin on there, it will be a little darker, once again, like with the red pepper. It may look a little different. So if you don't like the look of it, you could peel it, but it will add a little bit more fiber with that skin on there. 1/4 cup shredded carrot, 1/3 cup, 1/4 cup cheese it calls for. And so I think that's what we're going to want there. And so our broccoli, 24 seconds. And so like I said, we're going to strain it. Watch out for that steam. There it goes. So we'll take off that hot water. We'll go right back into the same container. And cold water on top of that. And if you'd like to cool it even faster, sometimes you can put some ice in with the water and throw it on there. But with this salad, it's pretty small pieces. They cool quite quickly. And we're going to just mix all this together. So always try to get as much of that water off as you can. Otherwise, it may make your salad a bit weepy with the water in there. Broccoli in. And now we need to mix up a bit of a dressing. So we're going to use some mayonnaise, a little light sour cream. So this is going to be fat-free sour cream. So 2 tablespoons. And once again, with those sort of thick sauces, you can use a little pusher on there. So as close as you can to your measurement. Scrape it out. 2 tablespoons. Once again, the fat-free mayonnaise. 2 tablespoons fat-free sour cream. I suppose that's a good way to remember that if you're making dressing. We're substituting half of the mayonnaise for the fat-free sour cream. And so that would probably work with any dressing if you want to make. If you have a recipe that isn't written for low-fat or diabetics, just go ahead and try to substitute it. They're both a similar consistency. The taste isn't going to affect it much as they're both thin mild. Mainly that's just so the creaminess on there. We're going to use some Splenda granular. The reason we use that is, of course, for diabetics, we want to cut our carbohydrates. Splenda is a artificial sweetener, so we're not going to get as much of the sugar from that. 1 tablespoon Splenda. Once again, that's the granular. Some dried dill. And so you can use, for any of your recipes, you can use a fresh herb instead of a dry herb. Typically, the dried herbs are more concentrated flavor, so you want to use 1/3 dry compared to a fresh. So if it calls for, let's see what we have for dill. So 1 teaspoon dried dill. If you have fresh dill, use 3 teaspoons. So we have the dry, so that's what we're going to use. Not too much. Let's see, we need some garlic. Take your knife sideways, keep your hand flat. We just want to crack it. Don't mash it yet. And then you can usually get that skin right off there pretty easy. The garlic skin is quite sticky. And we're going to mince. And so now I have it out of the skin. You can even flatten it even more. And mince. As small as you can make it. Chop until you get a bit tired. And that's going to go right in our dressing. A bit of salt and pepper. So it calls for a 1/4 teaspoon. And we could look at that if we'd like. Here's our 1/4 teaspoon level. If I put that in my hand, it does seem like quite a bit. 1/4 teaspoon. And a pinch of black pepper. And if we give that a quick stir, that's going to be our dressing for our broccoli salad. Let's make sure we get all the dressing in. Use a little rubber spatula. We're going to put it right on top. And stir it right in. And with this recipe, we're going to add a little bit of protein and dairy with our cheese. So we have a shredded cheddar cheese, and we're just looking at a 1/4 cup, which isn't much again. Here's an 1/8 cup. And so with that cheese, we want to put it on right at the end so we don't stir it in. It doesn't get all mashed inside with all the vegetables, so it looks a little nicer. So we'll put that right at the end. And this is a light cheese. It's reduced, so it's a 2% milk fat. So it's a reduced calorie cheese also. And so that's our broccoli salad. All right, so now it's been 20 minutes for our fish. And it looks pretty good. It smells good. And so when you're cooking fish, they typically say cook it until it flakes, which sometimes is hard to tell. I like to get in with my spatula and lift it up. And if it bends, that's the flake I want. Some people will get in with a fork and they'll peel apart, but as you see, if I just tip it with that spatula and it flakes, I can flatten it out again. You don't even see that break. And this is our lemon rice pilaf that we made to serve with it. It's going to be our starch with our dish. So we're just going to put a little bit of the salad. And like I said, we don't want to stir that cheese in too much with that salad. We like to keep it showing on top of that salad a bit. Once again, I think our portion size is a 1/2 cup. And that's important so we can count our carbohydrates and our calories again. And there we are. That's our lemon rice pilaf, our broccoli salad, and our almond crusted whitefish. Thanks for joining us with our Dining's Diabetes from the Michigan State University Extension Office. We'll see you next time.